Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a 9-month review of my 2023 Winnebago Solis 59PX. I can't believe it's been 9 months already. But yeah, during this 9 months, we've done quite a bit of camping. I've camped in Arizona, took a road trip to Arizona, obviously, and then had a road trip back from Arizona to Washington. So I camped in Bend, Oregon, where it was still snowy and the campgrounds were covered in snow. I drove on icy, snowy road conditions. I drove in whiteouts, and so all of these camping trips and all of these driving experiences, all of these camping experiences, I want to go ahead and give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. So let's go ahead and get started. But before we do, as always, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And on that note, let's go ahead and start our 9-month review. Okay, so I usually like to start on the outside, work my way around, and eventually make my way to the inside. So right away, I just want to start with the tires. The tires did amazing, whether it was in snowy conditions, icy conditions, wet, normal conditions, no complaints with the tires. And after 9 months, the tire's tread is practically still new. Oh, didn't see that there. Must have lost a screw. Let's see if we can put this back underneath. Not a big deal, but yeah, the tire tread is still pretty new, so the tires did amazingly on the trip from Washington to Arizona and then back up from Arizona to Washington. So right now I believe I'm approaching right around 6,000 miles, which is pretty good for all the traveling that I've done. And not even at a year yet. We're still at 9 months, so that's really good. Okay, so the folding mirror on this side is still working great. The blind spot camera here, no issues. Turn signal light indicators here, no issue. The light up top still works, so there's no issues there. Coming down to the LP station, I think I've used in the 9 months, I've probably used this one time and it worked with no issues. So I haven't had the opportunity to exhaust the LP tank completely just yet, so I haven't really had the opportunity to fill it up. But the one time that I did use it, it worked with no issues. Sorry about the plane noise in the background. Hopefully that'll pass over soon. Let's see. So the one issue that I do have, and maybe it's just a user issue and not necessarily a van issue, but sometimes the sliding door gets stuck when you're trying to open it. So sometimes what I have to do is I have to sometimes aggressively pull out and then slide it, because when it's closed, if I just try to slide it open, that's where it kind of gets stuck. So I'm not sure if anybody else has experienced that same issue, but if you have, I'd definitely like to know about it. So please drop a comment below if you've experienced sometimes your sliding door gets stuck. All right, so no issues with the windows leaking. And I will say up top, I did drive through a pretty substantial rainstorm as well on the way back from Arizona to Washington. So driving in the rain and then camping parked in the rain, there were never any leaks from the top pop-up area. I've heard some complaints before to where sometimes in that top seal where the kind of the cab overlays the top of the windshield area where the antenna, there's a seal that comes across right above the antenna. I heard a lot of complaints that sometimes water will leak, well, specifically in this windshield crack area where the windshield meets that top cab area. All that to say, no leaks. I've also heard that sometimes this area here, right underneath the windshield wipers, I've heard that that area tends to leak as well, but no issues, no leaks. None of the seal there is peeling back or rotting or dry rotting or getting old or any of that. So all of that's working good as expected. All of the lights up top are working. So let's make our way towards the back. There we go. So the rear view camera is still working great as expected. Let's see. So the plumbing station is working wonderful as well. No issues. Both switches still work. So by switches, I mean the water pump switch and then the light switch, which turns on the driver's side LCD light. So that is working good as well. Let's see. So I've actually had the opportunity to use each of the plumbing settings. So from dry camping to power filled tank, city water, winterize, and sanitize. Everything is working nicely as expected. I've posted a few videos previously on how to winterize, and actually another video on how to fill your fresh water tank in an emergency using the sanitize setting. So please feel free to check out those videos as well. Okay, so no issues with the plumbing station. All right, let's work our way around the back. Okay, so the tail lights, the brake lights work, no issues there. Okay, so another complaint that I've heard is the sewer hose compartment. Sometimes this little plastic lever here, sometimes it'll crack and break off. And I can see why. I mean, if you use the sewer hose compartment regularly, it is just a plastic piece. So, I mean, over time, I imagine that plastic piece could just potentially break off, especially if you're camping in extreme hot conditions or maybe even extreme cold conditions. But I don't use the sewer hose compartment. I don't even really need the sewer hose because we have a cassette toilet. The only time I use any type of hose is to connect it to the gray waste tank drain. And I don't store my hose in the sewer hose compartment. I actually store it. I store everything in here. So it's just a little more convenient for me. I store all the sewer hose stuff here. I store my electrical stuff here in this compartment, and then I store all my water hoses, filters, and anything of that nature in this tub here. Okay, so all that to say, I haven't had any issues with that little piece breaking off. But I will say that I think over time that's a common item that could be considered, normal wear and tear. Let's see. All right. So again, the windows, no leaks from the windows on this side. And again, the light there works, no issues. My 30 amp outlet here, that works in any condition. Snowing, raining, no issues there. The cassette toilet, that reminds me. So there was an issue. Not anything with the cassette toilet, but there's a plastic piece in here, and I think it just works in tangent with the key. I honestly don't even think it's needed, but for whatever reason, a little piece of the plastic kind of broke off. It did not affect the locking mechanism, so everything still works. It's just, for some reason, that there's a little piece of the plastic in here that just broke off. Other than that, the cassette toilet's working as expected. The gray waste tank drain, I've heard some pretty gnarly situations with that whole piece just cracking off. And I can definitely see some driving conditions where that is possible, because that area kind of sits so low. So if you're, for example, if you're going up a narrow, windy road that has, an incline hairpin turn to the left, that could possibly, scrape against the bottom of that hairpin curve, especially if you're near any rocks or any snow drifts that could just potentially, snap off. So I would just be careful when you're going over sketchy road conditions, and that would go for the generator as well, because the generator sits pretty low. Let's see if I can get a shot of that. But the generator, I don't know if you can see there. There we go. But yep, there it is. The generator sits pretty low, so you just got to be careful on certain roads, because that could potentially be a problem for the generator and or that gray waste tank drain area from potentially snapping off. Let's see. So nothing really else to indicate on this side other than the folding mirror, the blind spot camera, the turn signal indicator. All those are working as expected, and no leaks on the top, as I mentioned. The headlights are working as expected. The fog lights down below are working as expected. Windshield wipers, after 9 months, there's no streaking issues. Everything's working as expected. I will say this though, after I got back from Arizona and driving up through California into Oregon, all the snow conditions, there's a lot of sand on the road, right? So they plow the roads, they put sand to make the roads a little bit, give the roads a little bit more traction. So be cautious. All that sand getting on the vehicle, what I typically like to do is so the paint doesn't get too damaged, is as soon as I got back home, I just washed the van right away just to get that sand off the paint, because I imagine that sand is a chemical agent and it will eventually eat through your paint. So if you get back from a snowy road trip, I would just say, definitely try to wash your van as soon as possible. All right, let's go ahead and move to the inside. So far, just to summarize, the only thing that I really had an issue with on the outside is just the sliding door. For some reason, it catches when you try to slide it open, and it's not every single time. It's just occasionally, and I just have to kind of pull out before I slide it open, and that seems to work just fine. All right, let's move on to the inside of the coach, and we'll start with the front. And the reason why I want to start in the front is because I did something in haste that caused the check engine light to turn on. And if you're like me, when I see that check engine light turn on, it's very annoying, because to me, in the back of my mind, it tells me something's wrong, something's not right, it's got to get fixed. And just seeing that all the time, it's for me, it's just not a peaceful driving situation. So what happened is I was getting ready to back up the van and just put the van in reverse, but I forgot that I had the parking brake on. So when I tried to put the van in reverse, nothing happened, but I did hear, just like when you, for all of us that are, up there in years, when we used to drive stick shift, we kind of remember, changing gears and hearing that little grinding of the gears. And so that's kind of what I heard, and it was a little alarming to me because I've never heard that before in the van. And so when I heard that, it just quickly reminded me that I had the parking brake on, but by then it was too late. So let me tell you what happened. So what happened is the van's electronic digital system basically said that every check that it goes through, a brake check, goes through an engine check, goes through some other checks. Whenever you turn on the van, it goes through a set of checks, and then it says, okay, it's everything's good, it's okay to drive. And so when I try to put the van in reverse with the parking brake on, it just basically sent off all these different types of alerts. And that check engine light stayed on, and like I said, it was pretty annoying, because I personally thought that, did I just damage the transmission? Did I just damage the engine? Do I need to take it in? Do I need to get it looked at? What's the problem? So I did some reading and found out that if the check engine the light goes on, there's two situations. One is it's the steady light, and then the second one is a blinking check engine light. So again, this is just all from me reading. I'm not a professional mechanic. I'm not a professional Dodge Ram ProMaster mechanic. So again, this is just from me reading and just on my own experiences. So that's my disclaimer. But I will say, when that check engine light is blinking, the manuals that I've read say that you need to bring in the van immediately. Thank God that it wasn't blinking when I put the van in reverse with the parking brake on. It was just the solid check engine light. So in further reading, I found out that the engine will eventually reset itself after driving anywhere from 10 to 30 miles. And again, it just depends on the year and model of your Dodge Ram ProMaster. Again, this is a 2023. So in my situation, what happened was I think I drove maybe for 10 miles. And then after 10 miles, it reset itself and the check engine light went off. Because at that point, after 10 miles, it determined that whatever issue caused it to turn on, it was no longer an issue. So the engine, the digital gauges and alerts, they reset itself. And thankfully that check engine light turned off. So that was the ugly. So that was only kind of like this scary situation that I had that was kind of stressful and alarming. Again, I'm not a mechanic. I'm not really good with these types of issues that come on. So typically I am good with data. I am good with troubleshooting. But for a situation like that, it was alarming. It was a little stressful. And I just had to trust that, let's drive it after 10 to 30 miles. Let's see what happens. And then, of course, if that check engine light does not reset and turn off, then yes, absolutely, I highly recommend bringing it in to your local Dodge Ram ProMaster dealer. All right, so enough of that. Other than that situation, everything up front is working great. The wireless phone charger, the start-stop mechanism, everything on the steering wheel, the navigation system, the radio, the parking brake, everything that I've utilized has been working as expected. The lights for the interior door area, those are working. I don't know if anybody has the opportunity or had the opportunity to use the SOS or the assist buttons. I think you have to be, correct me if I'm wrong, and please leave a comment below if you've used these two options, but obviously you can use them if you're stranded. But I think you have to be subscribed to some sort of Dodge Ram or maybe just Dodge dealer subscription to emergency services. I'm not sure how it works. So again, I'm curious. If you know how it works, please leave a comment below. That would be awesome. All right. Phone chargers are working. Obviously, I think I missed that. Let's see. Okay. So I went over a lot of the good. I went over some of the ugly. Let's talk a little bit about the bad. So I want to do a comparison here so you kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. And let's kind of talk about, let's kind of use this as an example here so you know what I mean here. So I'm going to zoom in right here. I don't know if you can see this, but the Winnebago Solis comes with this flimsy screen in comparison to the Winnebago Travato. The Winnebago Travato comes with a really nicely made Rolf screen. It's just made with more durability. It's not Velcro. It's kind of screwed or stamped in, and there are no issues with the Velcro peeling off the van or anything of that nature. But I just will say that even with the blackout window shades here, it really is just a piece of Velcro that is taped or sticking to the van. And you know, this is not good backing, stick backing material, because it's very you know, slippery. So over time this will come undone, and then the Velcro will kind of peel away, just depending on the weather conditions. And so if you utilize these blackout shades quite often, so you know, over time, zipping and unzipping, what it does, it just pulls on the fabric, and then it just makes it easier to come undone. And so you just kind of have to press and just make sure all of that's in its proper place. Again, it's not really the greatest, it's not really the best made type of material for these situations. It's, you know, it's just a basic shade that's been Velcroed, and so over time it just kind of comes undone. So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention, because it will happen. And so there's that blackout shade. There's oh, look, I found my glove. I was looking for it. I thought I lost it. But there's this blackout shade. There's one behind the bed, and then there's this one here. You know, this is a perfect example, so you can definitely see, you know, it's just coming undone from sticking to the van. And so you just have to constantly make sure it sticks back. It's gonna keep coming undone. I mean, I rarely use this. Reason being, I try not to camp where there's a lot of bugs. Mosquitoes just tend to drink me alive, and so I try to stay away from those type of camping conditions. And so, I mean, don't get me wrong, I mean, we find a good campground under the pine trees near a river. If there's bugs outside, I'm definitely going to close this up. Keep the mosquitoes out for sure. But in general, you know, I try to, if I'm going to go to those types of campgrounds, which I truly enjoy, I'm probably going to go either early in the year or later in the year, where it's a little bit cooler, and not during the time of year where it's just a magnet for those mosquitoes to come out. Anyway, I'm just rambling on, but all that to say, honestly, that is the only bad part of this amazing van. I should say that's the only category that falls in. Let me say it again. The screen, the bug screen, is the only item that falls into the bad category. Honestly, there is no other part of the van that I've had an unpleasant experience with. So, I mean, with all of that, and with all the little mechanisms and controllers and electronic items and plumbing and, you know, the pop-up tent, there really is no other issues. And so on that note, I will say the gauges to check your LPG levels and your battery and your gray tank, the water pump switch, the generator start stop, those are working wonderfully as expected. The holding tank heater, I turned it on one time when I was camped in Bend, and then I turned it off, so that was working well. Nothing froze. Well, actually, it was 27 degrees overnight, but again, I did winterize the van, so I didn't expect anything to freeze anyway. So I just had it on for a little bit. I just wanted to test it out, and it works as expected. The solar panels on top of the roof are charging as expected. No issues there. I did read recently that somebody had just bought a van and they weren't getting any charge to their batteries. So yeah, in that case, if you see that you're not getting charged to your battery and your battery gauge is very low, then yeah, I would just take it into your closest Winnebago dealer as soon as possible so that they can troubleshoot and take a look at that. And then speaking of the pop-up tent, I did use it one time, no issues, no leaks. I think I mentioned that you definitely don't want to open it in windy conditions or rainy conditions. I do like to store my ladder up here. It works rather well. I just secure, it's a two-part ladder, so I secure it with the straps here and here. You know, when I'm driving, it really doesn't make too much noise. I can barely hear it, but for some reason, I don't know, it's been bugging me lately. So I think I'm gonna just take that ladder out. Quite honestly, I only use it when our niece and our nephew come camping with us because they like to sleep up there. So I think the only time I really need the ladder is when they come camping with us. So I'm just gonna take it out and store it. That way none of those little pesky noises bother me. So maybe that's, no, I wouldn't put that in the bad category because this is my choice to store it there and you don't have to deal with the noise consequences. Noises bug me so much that I actually took these off. So I actually took off the outdoor shower curtain rods. I took them off because I heard them rattling all the way in the front. But when I put them back on, I must have put them back on pretty good and snug because I don't hear them rattling anymore. So that's a plus. Maybe if you're experiencing the same thing, I would love to hear, and please drop a comment below. And yeah, I would just say when you put them on, just make sure they're nice and snug. And I promise you won't hear that rattling. So let's see. No, okay, so after 9 months, there's been no issues with the breaker, none of the 5, 10, 15, or 40 amp plugs. Is that what you call them? I never, fuses, there we go. So none of the fuses. That just shows you how much of a dork I am sometimes, but just want to let you know that the breaker has been great, and the fuses have not blown out. So all of these are the original fuses, and after 9 months, they're still working great. Okay. You know what? Even the smoke alarm works great because I was cooking, and I was cooking outside, and it got kind of smoky, and that smoke came into the van and set off the smoke alarm. So we know that the smoke alarm is working. All right. Okay, so the bathroom, again, I think I mentioned this before. This is a pretty strong magnet, and when you open the door straight away, this top corner actually will rub against this light here. There we go. Now you can see it. So you have to be careful. So what I usually do when I open it is I just kind of bend it a little bit and then open it all the way. And then that will prevent it from rubbing this light. So in the bathroom area, there's been no issues with the toilet or the toilet flush system. There's been no issues with the shower or the shower leaking. So everything's been working as expected. No issue with the drain clogging up. I just try to keep everything nice and clean. So yeah, no issues. Everything's working good. Just be careful. I mean, even when I close it, I just try to avoid this top corner rubbing the bottom of this light. All right. The air conditioner. Air conditioner works well. You know, I honestly, I don't like to use the generator. But when I do use the generator, the AC, I think I mentioned before in another video, you want to be careful not to put the AC on max, because you're even with the generator that comes with the van, honestly cannot handle that type of output. And so it will work well with the AC on the low cool setting. So just keep that in mind. But other than that, you know, if I'm at an RV park and I'm plugged in and I've got a full hookup, you know, I just turn on the AC full blast and it works fine, no issues. Okay. Table works well, no issues there. The fasteners are still screwed in, no issues there. The sink works well, so there's no issues there. It does not drip or leak from this area, as I've heard from some Solis van owners. So I guess there's a seal in there, so there's no issues there. All of the outlets and USB outlets, those are working as expected. My fresh tank level light is still working as expected. The Eco Hot system is still working, although I typically don't really use it. So how this works is there's a plumb line loop, and so what it does is when you want immediate hot water, you just turn it from normal to preheat for about 5 to 6 seconds, and what it does is it just opens up the plumbing line to give you that immediate hot water. And then it pushes the water that was previously there for you to receive. It just loops it back around into your water tank heater area. That's the best way I know how to explain it. But if you were just to leave it in the normal setting and you turn on the hot water, what you're going to actually do is you're going to have to wait for the water to cycle through until you eventually receive that hot water. But what happens is all that water that you're waiting for is, if you're utilizing your fresh water tank, that's wasted water. So putting it in that preheat will loop that water so it's not wasted, so it'll eventually cycle through, eventually make its way back into your freshwater tank. Sorry for that long explanation, but I would say, you know, and you know what? This does not even work with your shower. So it's really for your sink. Like if you just have to have super hot water to do your dishes, so it works for your sink, and I think it works with one of the outside shower connectors. But if that's the case, I mean, if you can just use a Coleman stove and just, you know, heat up your water that way, and then you wash dishes with the heated water that way. That's definitely one option. That way you definitely know that you're saving water when using your freshwater tank. Okay, found my glove. Good. Let's see. So I think the propane stove, again, you know, that works well. But what I like to do is, like I mentioned before, I usually just cook outside. I have a table that we bring with us. I put it outside. I put our Coleman stove out there and cook out there. It just keeps the funny smells from staying in the van, if you know what I mean. But I did try it once, and it does work out good. And then I do want to mention this nice little key holder that I found on Amazon. It works great. I use it to hang on my keys. I just put little air fresheners up here. You could even hang hats, jackets, whatever you want to hang. I put a link in the description below if you're interested in getting one of these. Again, they work out really well. Okay, I think that is pretty much it. That is my 9-month review on the 2023 Winnebago Solis 59PX. Again, I went over the good, the bad, and the ugly. Everything was good. The only thing that was bad, in my opinion, was those the cheaply made, or I just said standard basic blackout shades that are just, you know, with Velcro, made with Velcro. They just come undone. I don't like that in comparison to the Winnebago Travato. That was a more of a durable quality bug screen. So that was the bad. And then the ugly was with my situation with the trying to put the van in rear when I had the parking brake on, and really that was just my fault. It wasn't really the van's fault. And again, I would have to say I love the way the van just reset itself after driving for a few miles. I didn't have to take it in to a Winnebago dealer so that they can check it and reset it. The van just resets itself. I think that's awesome. So what doesn't even really fall under ugly as in the van's fault. It just fell under ugly because it was an ugly experience for me, and it was basically my fault. So other than that, I mean, after 9 months, I mean, the van is doing well. I'm really pleased with it. I forgot to bring out the car soap that I use to wash the van, but it works really well because it acts as a, and again, this is not a promotion or a paid promotion or anything of that nature. I'm just letting you know that, you know, when you come back from snowy conditions, you want to wash that sandy mildew residue off your van as quickly as you can, because it could eat up your paint or damage your paint. And the type of soap that I use is, and I'm pretty sure if you go to any auto store, they'll tell you which soap their customers like the best, but the one I use, I've been using since, gosh, 2017, for 7 years now, and it really acts as a paint protectant. You don't have to dry it because it has a spot-free dry. So one thing to note too is if you are going to wash your van, you don't really want to take it to those high pressured power wash, you know, drive-through systems, because that high water pressure could damage the engine components in the front, loosen that up. That's what I heard anyway, but that high water pressure could actually damage your paint. So, you know, spend the time to, you know, hand wash your van, rinse it off. Spot-free rinse soap actually helps really well. That's just my personal preference. That's how I take care of the van. And again, if you're going to be driving in snowy conditions, you want to make sure you wash that sand residue off as quickly as possible to keep your van looking nice, shiny, and great. All right, guys, I think I'm talking too much. I just wanted to give everyone a good 9-month review because it has been 9 months. I think that will cover it for now. If you found this video helpful, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I got a couple of camping trips coming up and then a 1-year review. In my next camping trip, I'm definitely going to go a little bit more into detail and how I camp with the van, utilizing the interior space and utilizing the exterior space. And so I really want to go into detail and show you what that looks like. Again, it's good to be back home in Washington. And again, if you found this video helpful, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on The Healthy Traveler. Thanks again for watching.